Take a deep breath and concentrate. Dictation will begin in 15 seconds. Get ready. Start. We are having this budget in the third year of the third 5 year plan. That is to say, this is the 13th budget under planning, but added to this is the emergency today, which naturally has an impact on the economic policies and, in particular, on the budget proposals. It is agreed on all hands that resources should be found for the strengthening of our national defense as well as for the country's economic development. I think on the whole it is a right approach in the situation that national defense and economic development should go hand in hand. Instead, we cannot have a strong, self reliant defense potential in the country, either now or in the future or in any future at all, without having a strong economic base, especially industrial base. For without a strong industrial base, you cannot have modern defense in the world today. Therefore, on the whole, it is a right approach, and I think we all should stick to this approach instead of trying to counterpoise one against the other. Therefore, on that score, there is not any controversy whatsoever, but there is ground for controversy when you come to the budget proposals. The tragedy of the present budget is that it heavily penalizes the patriotism of our people. It seems that those who have formulated the budget have taken into their heads that the legitimate sentiments of the people for strengthening the defense of the country, as we all stand for strengthening the defense of the country, could be exploited in a manner which is in a large measure against the interests of the people as well as against the interests of the defense economy. I wish to make it very clear that defense has two sides, weapons and equipments on the one hand, and the human side, as well as the labor power of the working people on the other. I think we cannot conceive of a strong defense in conditions of discontent, privations, sorrow, and suffering. I think we will have to evolve a policy whereby the resources of the country could be mobilized simultaneously with the harassing of the willing labor power, enthusiasm, and initiative of our working people. That is how we should approach the problem of defense in a democratic setup in conditions of military, etc. They do not bother about people. We have gathered here to discuss a question which is of crucial importance to our future. No single program more intimately
affects so many millions of our people than land reform. No other measure is remotely comparable in its power to transform their lives, to release their latent energies, and to give them not only economic battlement but hope in their future and their children's future, confidence in themselves as human beings, and equally important, faith in our democratic process. The sincerity and speed with which we implement land reforms will, of course, materially influence the overall rate of our economic growth. However, I feel that much more than this is at stake. What is on test is nothing less than the justice of our political system and its ability to bring about far reaching social transformation in a human and peaceful manner. Recent technological developments and the spread of the high yielding varieties program have increased inequalities of income in the countryside and has produced even greater disparity between landowners and tenants. It would be a complete misreading of the situation to think that the productive gains of the new technology have rendered land reforms less urgent. In my letter to the chief ministers, to which honorable member referred, I mentioned how small cultivators have been left behind. Most of these problems have already been mentioned, but I think I will repeat some of them. The position of tenants and sharecroppers has been aggravated by rise in rents and the large scale resumption by owners lured by the high profits of the new agriculture. In the long run, the very foundations of agricultural development will be undermined if millions of tenants and sharecroppers are denied in security of tenure in the land they cultivate. In spite of legal protection, it is well known that cultivators belong to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have been dispossessed of their land by money lender and others. Tenants have been downgraded to the status of sharecroppers and sharecroppers reduced to the position of landless laborers. All this has produced a growing current of discontent in the countryside, which has occasionally erupted into violence. These are dangerous trends. Certain constitutional amendments, which the honorable member has mentioned, were carried through to reduce litigation, but problems are still there. I know that all of you are as deeply concerned about these developments as we are at the center, but the conclusion which we must draw from them is that land reforms have become more urgent than ever before, and that an active progressive land policy must be a vital part of our socio economic development policy. I do not wish to belittle the importance of what has been achieved so far, such as the abolition of the intermediaries. However, we must honestly face the fact that the pace of agrarian reforms has been disappointingly slow and has not fulfilled the expectations of our people. Many of our laws are themselves defective. For example, The ceiling on land in states are hedged in with so many relaxations and qualifications that they have invited evasions. Others have so many lacuna that they have resulted in prolonged litigations. The machinery for their enforcement has been far from adequate. The illiteracy and ignorance of most tenants and the dual role of many owners of being both landlords and money lenders has made it difficult for tenants to insist on their rights. In the assessment of impartial observes, the enforcement machinery itself has tended to be biased in favor of the landlords. No program of land reforms can be successful if it does not take these facts into account and devise measures by which they can be overcome. What needs to be done is fairly well known. The crucial question is how to do it. All of you have given and are giving thought to this matter. The honorable member has enumerated the points briefly. They are that land records in each state should be complete and up to date in every respect with the proper records of the rights of tenants. This, I feel, should be given the first priority because in its absence, no further reform is possible, and even the required needs of cultivating tenants cannot be met. Then there is the question of security of tenure, which is linked with the regulation of rents. Land ceilings, which have been already enacted, should be enforced more honestly. Restrictions should be placed on the alienation of land belonging to the members of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. Holdings should be consolidated within a specified period of time, but the real problem is not the definition of objectives but their achievements. All the evidence suggests that tenants and small cultivators are subjected to almost unbearable pressures during the implementations of land reforms. It has been the invariable experience that preparation of the records of rights leads to a wave of resistance. Sir, this entire discussion has been initiated by the finance minister. He feels somewhat optimistic about the economic situation. I confess that this is the one point on which I must disagree. The situation today is something that causes much concern. There is rising unemployment. The prices are also rising. Finance minister files that there is justification for waiving the situation, hopefully because he thinks that the infrastructures are performing very well. I do not understand on what basis he has come to this conclusion. He says that the power generation is more satisfactory than last year. But should he be satisfied with a power generation of 51%? Should the efficiency not be very much greater? There is no reason why the power stations should not be operating more efficiently and useless. You insist upon it. You cannot obtain a requisite degree of improvement in efficiency. But in any case, to be complacent and say that the infrastructure is performing well is very strange. Similarly, in the case of coal, you put enormous sums of money in an industry, which is also the next basic industry. The results are unsatisfactory. The production remains as unsatisfactory as ever, while the costs are increasing. When he says the price situation is under control, I do not know on what basis the price situation is said to be under control. I am sorry that he places too much reliance upon statistics. The interpretation of statistics is important and they are capable of being manipulated in any manner as one would like in order to produce conclusion that one desires. Statistics are undoubtedly necessary. They have to be collected, but we have to judge them, we have to interpret them very carefully. I would say that when the finance minister forms the conclusion in regard to price situation, he should ask the housewives and see what they have to think about the price situation. Inflation is really increasing, rising very seriously. Every household is deeply disturbed in such a position to say that the price situation is under control is scarcely right. What is still more unfortunate is the fact that so many decisions are being taken which must lead to further increase in prices. The railways freight rates have been increased within a year, and I do not know whether it is part of the next budget exercise that is being carried out. Similarly, postal charges have been raised considerably, each of them resulting in a revenue increase of rupees 400 crores to rupees 500 crores of rupees. What can be the effect of all these increases? Then there are administered prices which also continue to be administered upwards always and not downwards. What are the prices administered for? In order to see that the public sector enterprises produce revenues and increase budgetary revenues, it is quite clear that every step that is being taken like this must result in increase in prices. Further, Mr. Finance Minister says that tax revenues continue to display buoyancy. This is the one statement in regard to which I can have no difference of opinion. It is showing buoyancy, but there again, I would like to warn the finance minister that the buoyancy is not going to continue at the same rate and in the same manner that it has been in the past. At least if it does so, I shall be very happy, but the chances of its being happening are small. He says the foreign exchange reserves are at comfortable level. I am very glad he thinks so. He may even say that they are comfortable. If they are at comfortable level, then there is certainly going to be greater drain upon it because steps being taken to stimulate exports further and so on and so forth. But I think the balance of payments position is precautious and, as he himself admits, is one of the issues which causes him concern, and quite rightly so. I would like to draw his attention to the fact that the imports have been liberalized and over liberalized as a stage when rupee is for all practical purposes devalued. Imports therefore must cost very much more and increase the chain on limited foreign exchange reserves. Liberalization of imports is necessary, but only in highly selective areas. That was not done. I think in their initial enthusiasm, they have overdone it. The second point of concern was about the rise of government expenditure. On that account, what has he done? Nothing is done. On the other hand, governmental expenditure has gone up and will go up now further because of the pay commissions recommendations which government has already implemented. There are other things which are beyond his control, like the natural calamities which must be attended to, and substantial sums of money will have to be provided. I hope that the finance minister realize that for the next year he has provided certain amount in his anticipatory budget about rupees 500 crores. Stop.